Everybody to this Erev Shabbat service from Kingston Liberal Synagogue. We are on page 88, the Shabbat evening service number 5, and I think I have got this gone, so I'm going to turn that off. Sorry. And we'll start, and can we all rise as the candles are lit?
The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. In the past week, some have known sorrow or disappointment, and for some the future looks far from bright. Let the Sabbath be an oasis of quietness. To the lonely may it bring companionship, to the sorrowing comfort, to the dispirited courage, to all of us peace of mind and hope for the future. And we're on page 88. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us by your commandments and enjoined us to kindle the Sabbath lights.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Please be seated, and we will read responsively from the bottom of page 88. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own. On the Sabbath we wish not to acquire but to share. There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed. On the Sabbath we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we think only of ourselves. On the Sabbath, we open our hearts to the needs and rights of others. And I'm going to not sing, if that is okay. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov le'adot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, la'agid b'boker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot. And we'll read responsively. It is good to give thanks to the Eternal One, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to tell of your love in the morning and your faithfulness in the night, to the sound of lute and harp and to the music of the lyre. Your deeds fill me with gladness, your work moves me to song. How great are your works, eternal God, how very deep your thoughts. The righteous shall flourish like the palm, grow tall like the cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Eternal One, they shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bear fruit in old age, they shall ever be fresh and green, proclaiming that God is just, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Okay, if you would all like to join me in L'chododi. L'chododi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, lechododi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shamo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litilah. Lechododi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela, lechododi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi makor habracha, Mirosh mikedem nesucha, Sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lechododi לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לכו דודי, לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לכו דודי, לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לכו דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. And please rise, and we're at the bottom of page 92. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Praise the one to whom our praise is due. We praise the Eternal One, to whom our praise is due forever. And please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'divro ma'ariv aravim. B'chokhmah potech sharim ובתובנה משני עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמורותיהם, ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. יבטח על סיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. And we'll stand for the Shema on page 94. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ela, asher anochi metzavacha, al levavecha. V'shinantan levanecha, barta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shachbecha u'v'komecha, u'kashartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chatavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Le'man tizkaru, v'aisitem et kol mitzvotai, Veitem kadoshim le'elochem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני Adonai Elohechem. Please be seated. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, Eternal One, are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together. Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nader b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh felem, Adonai imlach leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov v'gula miyad chazak mimeno. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'el Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are our guardian and deliverer. A gracious and merciful God, guard our going out and our coming in, that now and always we may have life and peace. We praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth. And please stand for the Amidah on page 97. Adonai sifetai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Ha'el Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Lifnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'elam Adonai, Machayei Meitim atah Rav L'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hageshem, Mazriach hashemesh u'morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim b'chesed, Machayei Meitim b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, u'matir asurim, u'makayem emunuto lishnei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umi domelach. Melech meimit u'mechayei u'matzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lechiyot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai mechayei hametim. Kadosh atah v'nora shemecha, ve'ein lanu Elohai mibeladecha. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. We thank you, O God, for this Sabbath day, which calls us to a closer communion with you. Though you are near to us at all times, you reveal your presence most clearly when we direct our thoughts towards you in worship and meditation. In you, O God, our humanity is exalted. You are our life. From you come its greatness, its power, its beauty. Establish in us, we humbly pray, a devotion to you that shall be firm in all the circumstances of life. May this service renew our hearts, the sense of your presence, and bring us peace. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. And on page 100. Eloheinu v'lehe avotenu v'imotenu, ritzei b'minchotenu, kachenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chalkenu b'tortecha. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. To purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, u'tifilatam ba'ahava tekabel, v'tihei laratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai she'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you are the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha v'lecha ne'eh laodot. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. V'tov beinacha livarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. We'll take a moment for Silent prayer. And we will continue at the bottom of page 102 with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol b'nei Adam. We will continue on page 161.
On page which?
161.
161.
Yeah, 161. This week's portion, as I'm sure you are all aware, is Bereshit, because we have finished the cycle and started again. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'haaretz hayta tahu uvahu choshech al pnei hahom. V'ruach Elohim mirahefet al pnei hamayim. V'yomer Elohim yeh or. V'yeh or. V'yireh Elohim et kol asher asah. V'hinei tov mo'od. In the beginning God created the heavens and earth. The earth was empty and without form. Darkness covered the face of the earth. Then God's Spirit moved over the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the whole creation, and it was very good. And I'm going to go off Siddur, because Rabbi Rene asked if I wanted to do a Devar Torah for this evening's sermon, and I was like, why not? Bereshit, Genesis, in the beginning. What is a beginning? Where do stories start? How far back do we have to go in order to provide context? The phrase, once upon a time, is very specific, in that it directs our attention to an exact point from which the narrator will continue the story. But what happened before? It's never made clear why the evil stepmother, and the fact that it is always an evil stepmother is a topic for another time, is evil. We just have to accept it. One exception to the once upon a time rule is in Bereshit, the first word of the Torah. It is derived from the Hebrew word rosh, which can be translated as head, with all its multiple meanings. The physical orb on top of our shoulders, the geographic location at the top of a hill or a mountain, or terrain, the chairperson of a committee or organisation, and the one most recognised by us at the moment being the start of something, Rosh Hashanah, the head or start of the year. Beginnings are important as they lead us on to the rest of the story. But more important is that we can have multiple beginnings, building on our past experiences and changing because of them. Who here has not reinvented themselves as time and experience leads us to recognize the folly of our younger selves? Even in the Tanakh, we can see that there are actually two stories of creation, two beginnings. The first is the one of which we are all aware and recognize in chapter 1, culminating with the creation of man along with the animals and vegetables, over which man is given dominion, and the end of the sixth day. Chapter 2 of Bereshit starts with God hallowing the Sabbath day, resting on the seventh day after their labour. Another point of discussion on the importance of a good work-life balance. If God needed it, how much more important is it for us? But I digress. Once God has rested, we start all over again in chapter 2, verse 4. And the second story of creation, the one less known and famous, creation's younger sibling perhaps. Here we are told again how God caused a mist to form water over the whole face of the ground, after which they created man from the dust. Not specified in this story that man is created in God's image, and provided them with the Garden of Eden. Bereshit then goes on a bit of digression, a geography lesson regarding river tributaries, which I'm going to ignore. Then with man, Adam, in the garden all alone, God decides to provide him with all the beasts of the field and fowls of the air to name. Not sure at what point fish are brought in on this second creation story. And finally, in chapter 2, verse 21, we get to the bit that we all know and love. Eve being created from Adam's rib. Contrast this to chapter 1, verse 27. And God created man in their own image. Male and female were created by them, and God blessed them. No mention here of man and woman being created separately. No suggestion that they were unequal, another point for later discussion, and definitely nothing about woman being made out of man's spare bones. So if the story of creation can have more than one in the beginning, surely so can we. And when we make mistakes, is it not better to learn from them and move on, rather than repeat them over and over, learning nothing and remaining stagnant in a rut of our own making? We have recently come to the end of the period of Slichot, the days of awe, where we make atonement both to God and to our fellow people for the sins and mistakes that we have made. Surely now is the time for a new beginning for us all, a better beginning, where we can be the best possible versions of ourselves. For now. Because life is a constant learning and changing experience, where we are lucky enough to get to choose how we want to live it. Einstein said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." There are many examples of God's mistakes and their efforts to rectify them. Sodom and Gomorrah, the flood, Job being sent to Nineveh, etc. As humans, how much more likely are we to err? But it is how we deal with our mistakes that truly defines us. And before we move on to the Kaddish, I would like to remind us all how fleeting life is, and it is never too late or early to implement changes for the better. And if they don't succeed, implement new changes. Okay. And we will continue on page 520 with, 520. And can we all stand for the Aleinu? Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים, עומדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נותן שמיים ויוסר ארץ, ומשיב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, Emet Malkeinu Efesulato, Kakatuv Betorto, V'yadata Hayom Vashavat Al Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Vashamayim Mimal, Va'al Haaretz Mitachat Ein Od. Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honour. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, b'yom ha'u yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. And I don't have the list. Sorry. This week we are remembering. I'm really sorry. Do I have them? I don't have a list. Sorry. This week we are particularly remembering Toba Kerbel, sister of Francis Leifer, Harry Fisher, father of Mimi Zadeh, and Philip Miller, grandfather of Carl Manuel. Is there anybody else that people would like to remember out loud? Or okay. I would also particularly like to remember a very, very good friend of mine, Ian Katz, who passed away last week at the ridiculously young age of 47, and whose funeral I was at yesterday. Zichron LeYaakov. Life is finite. Like a candle it burns. It glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades. Its substance is consumed and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the internal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. As in our hearts we name our loved ones, we pray that the divine presence will comfort us and all who mourn, as we recite together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrei kayutei v'yimlich malchutei, b'chayachon uvayachon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, be'agala bazman kariv evrum, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mivarach le'elam maya maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitmaman v'yitnaseh, v'tadar v'talel v'talal shmet k'cha berichu, leila min kol berachta v'shuata, tushbechata v'nechmata, da'amaran ba'alma v'yemru amen. Yehei shalma rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yemru amen. Oseh shalom birmamav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei adam, v'yemru amen. Please be seated. I have no idea if there are any announcements. Shabbat. Okay. There is tomorrow at 9:30. Sorry, what's happening? Sewing in preparation for Mitzvah Day is taking place tomorrow at 9:30, and then there will be a Shabbat morning service at the normal time of 10:45. Any requests for a final song, given how you are now all aware of how little I can sing? Let's go with the Don Olam. B'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefsa kol, azai melech shemo nikra, v'achar nikra via levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hove v'hu yeh betifara v'hu yeh betifara v'hu echad v'ein sheni laham shilo lahabira beli reshit beli tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra v'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra v'hu eli v'chai goali v'tzor chevli be'et zara v'hu nisi umanos li manat kosi beyom ekra manat kosi beyom ekra bi'ahado afkid ruchi bi'eti shan ve'aira ve'im ruchi gaviati Adonai li velo ira Adonai li velo ira. And we will may the one whose presence dwell in this house cause love and harmony, peace and friendship to dwell among you. Mi sheken et shemo b'bayit hazeh hu yishken b'nechem ahava v'shalom v'ra'ot. Shabbat shalom.